Champ. That's right. So the Riverband boys out of Thornley. That's it. It's the FootyCast, the Shelter FootyCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield with you on this Monday morning. And my voice is cooked from the weekend. And I'm not drinking. What's going on?
It's classic. It's just brilliant because I had a couple on Friday, a couple on Saturday. And you sound like you've been on the gas for about 45 hours straight. Good to be here, Scully. And I have to say, just quickly, before we talk about Friday night where we caught up, I was at a function on Friday afternoon. There was the Harrisdale Piara Waters AFL Masters gathering. And a couple of guys came up quite seriously and want to give them a shout out because they listened to the Shelter FootyCast and they were very complimentary of me, not you.
Well, that sounds about right. Very good. G'day, boys. Nice of you to listen along. We love that. We had some of our listeners down at the Federal Hotel in Fremantle on Friday night. That was a good night, that one. Lee Spur, Tom Cole, Mark Reddings.
Yeah, it was a bit of fun, wasn't it? And the locals got into it. And there was a bit of free shelter being given out. I'm not sure how that ended up. But, yeah, it was a good, great pub and hospitality was terrific. And thanks to the boys, as always, at Shelter for putting on a really good show.
We started handing out the flag mantle merch at the end there as well. We've just got a couple of pieces lying around. So if you did want to buy that, backchatpodcast.com.au/merch. It's well and truly on flag mantle. We will get into that. If you want to listen to us, you can listen to us wherever you listen to us on the podcast. Find us on YouTube. Find us on socials, Shelter FootyCast. You can send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Shelter, born and brewed in Busselton. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield here for the big moments of the round 22, the penultimate round.
So you got there at second last round, yeah.
That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you looked a bit
I just
worried.
You're like my thesaurus sitting next to me. I go straight to you. There was a couple of big things. Look, the Derby, the Western Derby 55. It was a great game, and we're going to get into that. But a couple of big ones out of it. There's been a few fines issued out. The boys' footy trips aren't looking so good after that one.
Yeah, they've taken a bit of a whack. 13 players, 7 from the Eagles, 6 from the Dockers, totalling about 20K. So that's
20,000.
That's a bit of money there. Liam Ryan, by the way, fined for striking Brandon Walker. So just tell me, the fines, if you get fined for wrestling, in your case when you played, where does that come out of your salary? How does it work?
Yeah, it gets taken directly out of your salary, and it's I'm terrible with this, but it's like pre-tax. Like it's before, it's like double the amount. For $2,000 fine, you got to earn 4 to, if you're on the big tax brackets like some of the boys would be.
After the AFL's 100 rich list is revealed, that's
correct.
That's interesting. Yes.
So yeah, it's a decent whack. I actually think fines sometimes could be more of a deterrent to doing things than suspension. Suspension happens and they're for big incidents and it builds up, and the way the MRO works, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. But you cop a $2,500-$3,000 fine. It's a lot of money. It doesn't matter how much money you're earning. It's still a lot of money. So the boys will, cop their clip from that. The other big one that I looked at over the weekend was Jason Horne-Francis not playing for the North Melbourne Kangaroos. Barring a major mishap, they'll win the wooden spoon this year.
Well, yeah. Well, that's not locked and loaded completely just yet. Trust me.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that too. But Horne-Francis misses for not doing ice spins. So I've heard the club speaking about it. I've heard Brent Harvey speak about it, who obviously has a bit to do there. He hasn't done his ice spins in front of the captain and the standing coach Lee Adams, and they've dropped him. A strange one for me.
We'll put it this way. Me better off asking you the question. If you have seen players
skip ice spins,
not just that, but been left out of a team because of something like that.
No, not for professionalism like that. Not for a one-off. If it was 6 weeks in a row and they'd told him the first 5 weeks, do your ice spins or you're getting dropped, and then they drop him on the 6th week, fair enough. But for a one-off, not doing your ice spins to set the standard, I'm all for setting the standard, and you've got to have great standards, which clearly they don't have at the North Melbourne Kangaroos. They're coming last in the competition. I'm all for it, but I don't think that's the right way. Not for a young player that you're trying to teach how to do the right thing. I don't think leaving him out of the game is actually the right way to do it. What do you think?
Well, my only question is, and this is coming from a long way away, is that Jason Horne-Francis, when he's been available a couple of times this season, he's played VFL. I just wonder whether there may be, is there any issue with his commitment, whether you're right, the discipline aspect, the professionalism that he's displaying. Now, that is not saying that he's a bit unlucky in this situation, but I just wonder whether just a couple of question marks popping up during the course of the year.
Your question's right. Have I ever seen in my career for one-off missing ice spins? No. So that would say, one, they've either overreacted to the nth degree, or
it's a litany of little things adding. And by the way, speaking of big moments, and this isn't on our list today, but it's worth touching on. You mentioned North Melbourne.
Yes.
Ben Cunnington at the weekend. I saw the vision of him coming out with his family. He was a blubbering mess. 2 bouts of testicular cancer. That is, it's just a good footy story in North Melbourne. Played some pretty good footy to honour the fact that he's back, and that's the best story North Melbourne's had this weekend.
Yeah, well, it identifies that it's more than footy, right? Like the emotions that come through that is all the support he's had from his friends, his family, his partner at the time. So, yeah, well done to him as well. Very good. I think we should get into it. West Coast and Fremantle, big Western derby. Fremantle defeat West Coast by 24 points. It's a close game, as we spoke about here on the Shelter FootyCast. Well, I might have. I don't think... actually... Did you not say it was going to be a complete blowout? I do recall that at some point in time last week.
I said 7 or 8 goals, to be honest. Okay. And when I arrived at the ground with the rain, and then you saw the first 5 or 10 minutes, Fremantle still doesn't play good wet weather footy. I don't think. No. I think they're still evolving, or they still have to fine tune that. But no, look. Let's give credit where credit's due. I thought West Coast were tenacious early, and I want to ask you this question. Well, let's get straight to the $20,000 fines. It appeared from where we sat that it was orchestrated in some degree that West Coast were going to try and ruffle the feathers of Fremantle just to test them, to see what they had. Was that just a coincidence that this broke out, or do you think the Eagles were the instigators?
Eagles instigators, 100%. Yep. They had to be, because Fremantle's the better side by a long way. And I've been screaming for it all last week that we needed a derby that meant more than just, okay, Fremantle's better than West Coast and they play each other and Fremantle wins by 8 goals and West Coast just rides off into the sunset. We needed to see that it actually meant something from the players. And yes, Fremantle wins. I was more impressed by West Coast, to be honest. And I know that I've played there for a long time, but to actually front up and to take it up to Fremantle are now the big brothers. West Coast have been the big brothers for a long time. Right as we sit here right now, Fremantle are the big dogs.
Absolutely. And look, I think just further to your point about the Eagles, the most impressive part for me was because of the emotional high, even though they lost against Adelaide with Josh Kennedy's departure. The natural feel was that it's going to be difficult to get themselves back up. And I thought, look, the pressure inside 50 was terrific from them. I just thought there was a lot of good signs there that we hadn't seen, a lot of intent that we hadn't seen all season.
From the young guys. Xavier O'Neill, that was the best game I've seen him play. Not because he had 30 touches, but because, and he didn't, whatever he had, but just his intent.
The rundown of Chapman, that sort of stuff.
That's a highlight, but he was really hard in at the contest. He was great. I thought Rep Bazzo, who wouldn't have had many touches at all, had a few spoils and intensity that, as a former player, you can see when guys have it. There's just this thing that players have. You can see by the way they run, by the way they are in the contest. They either have it or you don't, and you can't learn it. He has it, whatever that it is. Brady Hoff, I rate him. Harry Edwards played a really good game as well. So
what you're saying is their defence, when you think that McGovern comes back in next year, their defence is, and Tom Paris, we'll get to him, but just an extraordinary game, an extraordinary season from him. Their defence is okay for next year.
Yep, I think so. And I think their midfield with a few young guys splattered in there. I think you could see like a Luke Shuey go back into the back line potentially. But I thought he played a good game as well. The desperation has been led by the leaders, and that was great from West Coast. But we need to talk about Fremantle because they win the game. They don't play great footy in the wet, but that was about as hard of a game as they would have come up against. A physical game in the wet. It doesn't suit them at all. And they're able to find a way, and it's through Sean Darcy. He starts it in the midfield. The game's pretty level at half-time, but Sean Darcy takes over against Nick Natanui, who is one of the premier ruckmen in the competition. Yes, he might be a bit injured, but you don't go into many games 100%. So if you're out there, you're out there. Nick Nat got absolutely dominated by Sean Darcy.
Well, anyone who went up against Sean Darcy got dominated. Let's be honest. I think a record number of hit-outs for him in his career. Went forward, kicked a goal, 16 touches. And if you were Sean McManus, if you were Xavier Ellis, or if you were Eliza Riley, who were the judges for the Glenelg Allen Medal, it was a soft kill. Yes. It was an easy. Having said that, Tom Barras was a clear second. And at times, you thought, geez, he's close, but never going to be getting the 10 or the 3 votes off.
If it had been like a 1-goal margin, it might have been a more interesting conversation because Tom Barras has 9 intercept marks on the day. I know Rory, again, so Nick Nat maybe not 100% fit, Rory Lobb not 100% fit, but you're out there. That's like, he looks like he's got an AC joint injury, so you can jab them up. He obviously got a stinger on it in that third quarter. but Tom Barrass outplayed him from
He
pillar
looked
to
mentally
post.
shot to pieces, irrespective of the injury, and he could see it in his approach on the footy compared to Tom, who was flying at the footy and just the confidence level was so high. Not so for Rory Lobb.
Is he in the All-Australian conversation? You sat next to one of the selectors on Saturday night.
Well,
What was Jacko saying?
Well, Adam Simpson is obviously publicly going to push for that.
So's Will Schofield.
Yeah, okay, but bear in mind, this is a team that's finished second last, has leaked, as a collective, has leaked so many goals this year. I just think it's going to be difficult to squeeze him in there, but I'm not saying he's...
Wouldn't that make a bigger case? Wouldn't that make a bigger case?
That fact they've leaked so many goals this year?
We're not putting the West Coast defence in the All-Australian team.
No, I know this, but I'm saying... I just wonder whether...
Because he personally hasn't leaked goals.
No.
And they have. So doesn't that make it even better? Yeah, he's played in a shite team and a shite defence. And he's been able to hold it all together.
Yeah, no, look, if he was put in there, fantastic. I just wonder with the ladder position and what they've not done as a team, whether you look at Melbourne, whether you look at Collingwood.
That's what will happen though.
Exactly,
Stephen May will get in there because he plays for Melbourne. He's got a name. It happens every year with this shit. It's the same story every time.
No. But if Tom Barrass and the Eagles were fit first, second, or third on the ladder, Tom Barrass gets in. I don't think it's to do with... I think the ladder position, the way their team has gone, might be more influential than talking about it's an Eastern States based decision.
I'm not talking about Eastern States either. I'm talking about it's a name thing. Okay, let's pick the best team. All right, let's get a backman in the best team.
Dangerfield gets in every week.
Yeah. No, but it doesn't have to be individuals. But let's pick the best team and let's pick some players from that team, which is fair enough because they're playing well. But I guess to my point, if you can play well in a shit team,
yeah, true.
I mean, maybe you actually be playing better than anyone else. Maybe it's a squad thing. Maybe he makes a squad.
A squad of 40, a moral, I would have thought.
Yep, very good. Anything else you want to touch on the Derby? I mean, you called it. We both worked the game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I was doing the last 5 minutes. I was commentating. Carl was actually commentating what was out in the middle, and I was commentating when there was a brief stoppage of the Melbourne Carlton game because that result was pretty important. But no, I thought the Dockers, they've got the Giants this week away from home. They did what they had to do, and I don't think you can ask for too much more. It might be a bit sore after that match, though. That was pretty physical. And it was one of the better derbies. I said to you, there have been so many dud derbies in recent years. This was actually, at least for the first 3 quarters, it was a contest, and Fremantle were challenged, and that's what we loved.
We did. Let's talk about that a little bit. The ladder position at the moment with numerous teams, it's actually set itself up to be an incredible last round. Fremantle sit 6th on the ladder. They can jump Brisbane or Melbourne.
Will lose.
Yeah, one of them will lose, so they'll jump them irregardless. So one of them misses the top 4, which is an interesting conversation.
It's huge, isn't it? And I think if Melbourne loses, that'll be, 7 out of their past 13, or they've lost. Their second half of the season has been very shaky. So
that is if Collingwood wins, by the way. So if Collingwood wins, Melbourne or Brisbane will drop out. But if Collingwood lose, they may stay in.
And look, Collingwood is a team that Fremantle hopes gets rolled on the weekend. Fremantle fans, again, are barracking for Carlton. Yes. And the other result between Melbourne and Brisbane, not irrelevant, but they don't want to draw. That's all they want. They want a result there.
There's top 4 to play. There's 8th position. So 7th is locked away. Richmond will play finals. They may finish 7th or 8th, depending on a few things. But Carlton may drop out of the 8 if they can't get the job done and the Bulldogs win. The Bulldogs scraping their way, imagine. I was actually down with some of the leaders at the Freo Dockers after the game. I was down there when Mundy was getting cheered off, and I won't say who it was, but I said, "Fucking Carlton, how do you not get that done?" And that because they were watching it as well, and because Carlton beats Melbourne there, and then Freo's proper top 4
opens up big time.
Flag mantle. Tell you what.
Yeah, there's it's intriguing last weekend, and just going back to that game, Carlton-Collingwood, 90,000, I reckon, at the MCG.
Very good. A shelter FootyCast here with Mark Rennings, Will Schofield. Let's get through the rest of the round. This was the game that was on at the Federal Hotel where we ran the Shelter FootyCast night. Brisbane defeating St Kilda by 15 points. I don't know how Brisbane won this game. St Kilda were absolutely flying, coming at them. Max King looked like he was trying to kick the ball the opposite way. How do you actually butcher that badly as a high-paid... Yeah,
it's a mental
mindset.
Problem. And now, look, I know you were a goal kicker. It wasn't absolutely.
Yes.
And mindset and maybe technique comes into it with that, surely. I mean, you have to break it down, and Mind's better than us in terms of goal kicking, would be able to tell you what he's doing wrong. But probably I think what Max King needs is one person at the footy club, not 5 or 10 externals.
Yes.
Just work with him. I'm sure someone is, but at the moment that's costing them dearly. So 5 behinds, and the Saints butcher the footy. Bottom line is Brisbane found a way again, and Cam Rayner was absolutely outstanding with 4 goals. He was best afield in that when it really mattered.
Excuse me. On that skill acquisition and skill improvement, there's this curve that you've got to go through a dip to be able to improve. And so it looks. Look, I mean, he's been inaccurate this year. So, and you can get in your own head. You can think about it too much, and then you can go to the point where I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to kick, and then your technique goes out the window. He just has no flow. He has no consistency, and. Matty Lloyd and Nick Rewalt's coming out and all these guys. And it's like you said, it's all good and well. Like, you can look and say this is what's wrong, but in the end, he has to execute it. Like, he's the one that has to execute it. You speak about Lockett and Dunstall and all these guys having these magnificent techniques, but in the end, yes, there's technique. They were mentally strong enough to be consistent for a very long period of time. Josh Kennedy's the same. He had a technique, but it changed over the way. The technique changes. You have to be mentally strong enough with the ball in your hands, everyone looking at you, to go back and kick it straight through the goals.
Because the little man at the back of your head, after he's kicked, say, 3 behinds or 4 behinds, the little man at the back of the head starts getting louder and louder.
Why don't you change how you kick it, Max?
All these things, and the crowd gets into you after you miss a couple, and it just builds and builds. And like, I do feel sorry for him because he's a talent. We know he's a talent. And bear in mind, Tom Hawkins, early part of his career, there's been some great goal kickers that have had issues or periods where they have struggled to kick goals, and unfortunately for the Saints, unfortunately for you because you tipped them as well, and unfortunately also for Dan because he had the Saints at the line at plus 13.5 and they get rolled by 15. So tough night at the office at the Federal Hotel. Mason Wood kicks 4 goals for the Saints.
Good player, Mason Wood. He's a enigma. I don't know.
You're right. When you say good player, you're right, but he's also enigmatic is word.
There was a period of time where we'd go to play North Melbourne when he was playing there, and we'd be drawing straws as to who would play on him. He was I don't know if he is or was like a frightening player to play against. He's quick. He's got
size.
Yep, he can jump. He can mark. He can kick. He can do everything,
but not regularly enough. Not consistency enough.
Yeah. So he kicks 4 goals. Rayner kicks 4 goals, and Brisbane get it done in a pretty good win for their football. So they had to win. Otherwise, top 4 was 100% off the table.
How's Friday night? Brisbane, Melbourne at Gabba. So we've got just plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, very good. Western Bulldogs defeat GWS by 5 in an absolute dour affair.
I was. First half or first quarter, I thought, I'm not watching this crap, and I turned it off.
Why was it so dour, though? Like, what?
I don't know, I turned it off. This is absolute garbage.
I think, look, there wasn't anything on the line for GWS. There was plenty on the line for Western Bulldogs. Yep. Like, I know you keep laughing at me, but Western Bulldogs are still alive in the final stretch. They had to win that game. So maybe, this free-flowing game that the Western Bulldogs usually play, they parked that a little bit in opportune to be able to slow the game down and not open themselves up to the counter-attack of GWS. I think that's probably how it looked. GWS midfield absolutely dominated the game. Josh Kelly had 35 touches. Cornelio had a bunch. They were sort of running around doing what they liked. It was a bit of a different Bulldogs side, which if they can scrape their way into finals, I would call them a danger side. I think they're good enough on their day to be dangerous. Can you give me that, Skeet?
Oh, of course. In an elimination final, they've got the midfield, they've got some weapons. But if you're comparing them to, at the moment, a Richmond, the form of the two is just chalk and cheese. In terms of getting into the finals and playing elimination finals, I bet you I'd rather be playing Bulldogs than Richmond at the moment.
This could be a Fremantle matchup here. If Freo don't scrape into the top 4 and they end up 5th or 6th, they're looking at Richmond, Carlton, Bulldogs as those bottom 2 sides.
Yes.
You would rank them Richmond as least likely to play?
The least wanted.
What about Carlton and Bulldogs? Who would you want to play less out of them? So double negative.
Either or. I mean, Carlton's, even if they win on the weekend against Collingwood, that might be their big achievement to get into the finals. And the Bulldogs, they can have a good day. I just think what we saw a couple of weeks ago means that the Bulldogs, vulnerable against Fremantle, they get home. But just. And Mark McVeigh, given that Clarko looks like he's going to North Melbourne or...
So is that off the table, is it?
Well, not saying it's off the table, but I don't think the Giants, up until a couple of days ago, had actually presented an offer to Clarko. So Mark McVeigh, as I say, ownership 9/10 of the law. I'm not sure that he's going to get the job, but whether someone like James Hird could possibly...
No, we can't. Surely not.
No, but I'm saying an experienced coach or someone...
Yes.
Mark McVeigh, outside of Clarko, who's are the contenders? Ross Lyon, does he go to the Giants?
Did I see something about Adam Uze?
Adam Uze's been in the...
front runner for somewhere?
Well, he's been a pretty darn good assistant coach for a long time. So
yep. That's what usually happens. The best teams get their assistants poached, right?
Exactly.
So he's been a good coach at Melbourne for a decent amount of time for him to be in the running. Adelaide defeat North Melbourne by 29 points. Both picked Adelaide. North Melbourne were in this game for quite a long time. I think it was a bit of the Cunnington factor, which is great, I think. He had 17 touches, 5 marks, 3 clearances, which by his lofty standards isn't a massive game for him. But I think if he had had 1 touch, no clearances, it would have been a happy day for North Melbourne. You sometimes need something to play for when you're in a side that's wooden spoon contenders, and it looked like North Melbourne lifted.
They by 12 or 13 points in the third quarter, and I'm thinking to myself, Eagles are heading towards a wooden spoon here. But Adelaide, as we saw the week before, they've got a bit. They've got a bit about them. Now they're still an evolving team themselves, but Dawson's been a good pickup for them. He was close to best on ground along for the Crows. Again, we looked at what we saw.
He's been good.
He's been good. So, no implications on the top 8. But
that is a thing. So I was with a West Coast player who's not playing right now before the Derby, and this game was on, and we were watching it and cheering for Adelaide. Because you don't want the wooden spoon.
No.
Like, not winning the wooden spoon is something that, it's all West Coast have got to play for now. So I don't think if they both lose, West Coast can win the spoon unless they lose by a long...
No, but bear in mind, North's got the Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium, which is, Gold Coast should be winning it, but it's not a lay-down misère.
Yeah, very good. That's probably all we need there. Fogarty kicks 4. He had a great back half of the season.
Big thighs.
So,
he has.
I don't know why.
Have you seen the legs? He's got massive legs. He's just a unit.
He is. He could be anything next year. He could be one of these players that builds his way into the last part of the season this year and really bounces into a big one in 2023. Geelong defeat Gold Coast by 60. Will picks Gold Coast. What was I actually thinking? I watched this game. I actually watched this game.
You were gone in the first 10 minutes.
What would have...
Because you try to be a smart ass with your tips instead of just tipping who's going to win.
Okay, so Skeet, the fucking Oracle, picks Geelong.
Well, they're $1.08, or $1.20. Let's be honest, Geelong are the best team of the competition at the moment. They go to the Gold Coast, whose season's gone. Since Stuart Stew has signed a contract, they've been no good. I didn't think there was ever going to be any doubt in this. So the margin did surprise me a bit.
Yeah, 60 points. Did you think it was going to be bigger win, did you? Cameron, he kicks a bag, keeps his Coleman medal hopes alive. Rankin kicks a couple for the Gold Coast, but Gold Coast didn't really offer a blip here. Sam Day went down with an injury. He's been one of these players that's just been injured his whole career. Unfortunately, he's sort of been in and out and in and out. I'm actually bouncing around trying not to say this man's name, but the man yes, he continues to be one of Geelong's best every single week. Plays everywhere, anywhere. I think he played in the ruck on the weekend. He's an enormous player for Geelong.
Now the Cats, we know they've won 12 in a row. Just in brief, last round coming up, they've got the Eagles. That game is just they don't have to win it. There's nothing to play for Geelong except get an injury. Now, given there's a bye the week after, is there any point resting players this weekend?
This is why this bye is stupid, because you're now in they've won. They'll be minor premiers. They've got to weigh up whether to leave. You can't leave players out for 2 weeks.
Because it's not playing enough footy. I have this argument with Carl Langdon.
They win the qualifying.
They play one game in a month.
Oh, yeah.
No, and look, Carl and I have had this discussion on radio, and I'm saying, no, you've got to play your best team in round 23, because, as you say, if they win a qualifying final 2 weeks after that, they've got another 2. It's just, and I remember this going back to 1990 in brief, when it was Essendon, Collingwood, and West Coast. Collingwood and West Coast fought out a draw. Essendon ended up playing, I think, one game in a month.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I would have thought footballers
you
eventually want to get
you get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
I know there's risk of injury, but there's risk every single week. If you're worried about getting injured, then you wouldn't play ever. It's sort of you get into the car and you can have a car accident, obviously, but you get into your car and get going. And as a football player, you're doing everything to play footy, and so your body almost needs the hit out. If you actually feel worse the first week after a break, the second week you feel fresher. But if you have a break, it's why this bye I don't rate it at all. I really liked the pre-grand final bye. I think it gives opportunity to make a scene. We can do State of Origin somewhere there if we wanted to without the grand final sides, or make it a festival of footy or something. But it means that the team that wins the minor premier, which will be Geelong this year, earns the right to sort of get the other teams on the hop a little bit. You know, they don't get the opportunity to rest the other teams. You know, Geelong rolls in, wins a qualifying, straight to a prelim, and there you go. Because, you know, yeah.
I totally agree with you that it just, you know, it came in because of the Ross Lyon and what he did, and other coaches, not just Ross, but just...
Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, Ross. But yeah, it does. I prefer the pre-grand final by myself as well, and particularly for the two best sides of the season, gives them that chance to back up and be fresh for a one-off occasion.
I didn't see this next game because it was being played while the Derby was being played. Melbourne defeat Carlton by 4. I've watched the last 4 minutes. I do not know how Carlton lose this game.
Extraordinary. They led by 7. I think with as late as 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And Jake Melsham takes a mark just outside around the goal square. And even then, they led by a point, and they had the ball with 90 seconds to go. A corridor kick doesn't hit the target. It was every Carlton fan's worst nightmare of this game playing out at the death. And let's be honest, they were pretty good. Brayshaw, he's having a ripping year. I mean, he's just signed a 6-year deal, and he's got 38 touches.
Which raised a few eyebrows. People thought, oh, why are you giving him a 6-year deal? He's a winger, half-backer. Must have great leadership qualities, in my mind, if you're signing him for 6 years.
I don't know a Brayshaw that isn't of that ilk. No, seriously, he isn't well regarded as a person, as a footballer, and so that rings true.
I saw a bit running across social media that Stephen May apparently said, we didn't need you in the grand final or whatever to Melksham. Well, Melksham could say right back to May, we may not be playing top 4 this year without me, because he kicks 4. He's the one that taps it out to Cozzy Pickett late. He had a huge impact on this game. And I saw him interviewed after the game on this one. Emotional probably, would be the right word. This means a lot to him because he's missed out, hasn't played in a flag. He's at the back end of his career. He's over 30 now. This means everything to him. I know what it feels like for him, and he's playing out of his skin because he doesn't want to lose his spot in the side.
Yeah, well, even a bit different to you, because you think of going back to 18 where Nick Nat, Shepherd, Gaff, who missed the grand final, and then possibly he gets a chance this year. But bear in mind, therefore, I'm just not... So this game against Brisbane, they lose this Friday night, I don't think they can win the flag.
Ooh.
I don't think they can win the flag. I mean, they were just trying top 4 if they finish outside the top 4 in essence, because they just haven't played consistently well enough in the back half of the season, despite all the names we know with Oliver, Petrarca, Gawn, May, Lever, all these guys. They just haven't been able to play the same for the first 3 months. How do they get back to playing that type of footy?
I'm going to back them in that once finals comes around, they play 3 weeks of footy and they can win the flag. I'm not going to say they win the flag, but I think they're experienced enough. It's a long road defending a premiership. You have every team coming at you. You're the best. They prep, But once finals comes around, it's almost back on level playing field. Yep. Other than qualifying finals, you win or you lose, and you lose, you're out.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. No, look, they've got the talent there, no question. By the way, Cozzy Pickett, again, trolled on social media when he kicks the goal, racist stuff.
There's piggery.
We bring it up, but it's like, really, is that where we're at still? But anyway, he's a little star.
Yep, absolutely. So Melbourne get it done and keep their top 4 chances alive. Richmond defeat the Hawks by 61. This feels like a game I would have picked the Hawks, but apparently we both picked Richmond. Absolutely dominated them from start to finish, which I was a little surprised at. I thought Hawthorn may not be the side to sort of drop off, but Richmond, as you've pointed out for a very long time, they're firing at the moment.
Yeah, and look, they're missing Grimes, probably for the year. In fact, for the year. Dusty, no guarantee to come back. By the way, he is the highest paid player in the AFL with the 100 rich list.
This 100 rich list.
Yeah, look, I can just... And players love these numbers coming out. They just embrace it.
Well, how... No, but how would this have been compiled?
By the Herald Sun, my understanding is, with the likes of John
around,
Malcolm,
they're sniffing around,
the accountants. I don't know. I'm not sure how they get it. Anyway, I reckon there's just...
Well, I just find it very interesting that in my time as a player, I promise, 100% fact here, I did not know what one teammate was on. I never knew once. And no one knew what I was on. It's not a thing that was ever talked about. Not once in my whole career, 14 years. So what
I never talk about that when I've been in my media. I haven't spoken about...
exactly. So where are all these numbers coming from? I saw the one last year, and there's a player that I went, because I wasn't playing, and I went and asked, is this number right? And he said, not even close.
Well, it was unders?
No. No, it was well overs.
Oh, really?
So just when you're reading this sort of junk, it's just dime a dozen. Like, seriously.
But, okay, just very brief. I know we're talking about Richmond Hawthorn.
That's all right. This is way better.
Actually, but the fact is, or at least the list shows that the Eagles have got a handful of players over 30 on really big money in that list.
That would, yeah. I think the ballparks, it's probably more okay, this is the amount, but I think ballparks, there's enough talk to know how lists are built. So, West Coast, for instance, have a bunch of players on high amounts of money, and then their bottom end don't get paid a lot of money. Like, that's how their list is built.
Yep.
And you can figure that out by the contracts that have been done in the past.
So if someone like Gov, and he's, I think, the highest paid West Coast Eagle on this list, sees that figure or looks at the pay, does he get dirty with that coming out, or is he just, right, we'll just laugh it off?
No, I think it is what it is. There would be not from Gov, but from me. Like, is it public interest? Probably. And it probably is. And probably what we need to do is make it way more transparent.
Like the Americans.
Yeah. So this is the deal, and then, like anything, if you're actually honest and upfront with it, people don't actually give a shit.
Mate, you're right. Once you tell them, you go, geez, that's good, lucky bugger. Move on. They move on so quickly.
Whereas if you don't know, and there's scrutiny, and there's, I wonder he's 1 million or 1.5 million. If he just come out and said, I'm on this amount, everyone would go, all right, all the best.
Having said that, some will say, it's none of your business anyway, what I earn.
Yeah, correct.
But anyway, Richmond, far too good. Hawthorn.
Tom Lynch kicked 8 goals, by the way.
He is.
That's a bag.
That's his career best. He equalled it. I think he did that against the Eagles. But this year, that they smashed them, he kicked, I'm sure, 8 against the Eagles. So
when he gets hot, he's hot, Tom Lynch. He's one of the...
And I saw a couple of things from Morris Rioli Jr. as well, by the way. I just loved his work. And, Presti, a couple of goals. He has filled in the void in the midfield. Rioli, as I said, 2 goals. Bruce, grand old campaigner with a couple, and Jack Gunston with 2 as well. But
were those 2 play on, Bruce and Gunston?
I would have thought possibly. I mean, they've got enough youth in that side. Not like they're an ageing team. I'd keep them in there. Yeah. I'm not privy to where they sit health-wise or where their list is at, but I would have thought Bruce and Gunston, if you can, you got Mitch Lewis, got some young blokes around them, why not keep them there if they're keen?
Because there was rumours of Jaeger O'Meara, Tom Mitchell being shopped around a little bit at the end of last year. I wonder if anyone has any currency.
Gunston's had some back issues or has had some injuries.
That's probably their core now. They probably had their chance last year to get anything done, and now they're probably old enough that they continue on and keep going.
True.
Sydney defeat Collingwood by 27 points. This was a good game. My team, Sydney, I'm right on them. They're just behind Flagmantle for mine. Sydney Swans beat Collingwood. Finally, the streak ends for Collingwood. I was watching the game, and just that Collingwood was sort of hovering within 3 goals for a lot of this game, and it's gone from surely Collingwood can't get it done to now the whole time I was thinking they're going to get this done. They're somehow going to find a goal. They're going to kick a goal here. They're going to get within 2 goals. But they just couldn't. Sydney had them at arm's reach the whole game.
Yeah, and they were brilliantly coached because what they did was they took the pace out of the game. They possessed the footy a lot more than what Collingwood would have liked.
Yeah.
And it was just using the body of work that Collingwood had put together over 3 months essentially and going, okay, how do we slow them down? How do we curtail Nick Dacos, which happened. I mean, that was in itself pretty big for the Swannies. And, you looked at the way they went about it, and Sydney played almost the perfect game against Collingwood, one that other clubs I reckon will look at and say, yep, that's how it's done. Isaac Heaney's 150th game, kicked 2 goals, but including a beautiful, he's gut running towards the goal square, a tap over the top to Buddy, who finished it off brilliantly. He kicked 3, by the way. And Collingwood's got some issues. Tagoe was an out before the game with a hip. Ginnivan does a hammy or hamstring awareness, as they call it now.
Which is a hammy.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was a loss, not unexpected, but one that the timing of it and the injuries, if there are a couple, might leave them a bit vulnerable for this week.
They'll get the bye before finals to fix them all up. Callum Mills, best on ground. I think Sydney have all the tools here. Buddy Franklin gets forgotten about. He kicks 3 goals, but he just he's 35, 36 maybe. he's pretty old and he's still moving really well. I speak about it a bit, but having that big presence in your forward line frees up a Heaney who kicks 2 goals, frees up those guys that may be able to impact the game. So I think their midfield, they sort of went through that rough patch in the middle, which, I don't think any side really plays well for the entire season. Geelong probably been the side this side to do it.
But they get 2 games if they win this weekend, which they'll take care of St Kilda, I would have thought. They get potentially 2 games in a row at the SCG.
Yes.
I presume that's where they're going to play their finals. That's a pretty nice stepping stone towards going to a grand final.
Yep, I like it. Sydney going very, very well. Port Adelaide defeat Essendon by 84. We both pick the Bombers.
What a bunch of misfits and losers they were. I looked at that scoreline and thought...
84 points.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a 50-50 game, to be honest with you.
The president of Essendon has stood down this morning, Paul Brasher. He's been a long-standing president of the Essendon Footy Club. He stands down. Is this right? Enough's enough. Rutten goes. The spill. Like it sounds like it to me. A big loss like that. 84 points on the road. Was it on the road?
No, it's at home. It's
at home
Stadium.
Against Port Adelaide, who have not played well this year.
Round 22.
That tells me the players they're
checked
done.
out.
They're done.
They've checked out. Oh, that's really poor from them. And look, Port Adelaide, Dan Houston was good as per usual. Georgiades came back, kicked a bag. But this game was over by half time. Could be, as you say, a defining loss for Essendon with what they do off field moving forward. Because Mick Malthouse tipped them to win the flag this year. Now, I never thought that was on the cards. They played finals last year. Is their list, are we suggesting their list is no good, or it's...
It was never any good. I looked at their list at the start of this year. I saw Mick Malthouse pick them, and I went and studied their list closely. They don't have... Okay, Peter Wright played well at stages this year.
He's been a good pickup. He's been good.
Yeah, but they don't have they don't have like a key forward line where all these dangerous players. They don't have key backmen. They don't have... Like, Draper's serviceable, but he's not an all-Australian ruckman. They don't have any key position players. So they've just got this mosquito fleet that runs around doing all this stupid shit that's inconsistent. And then, on top of that, they were coached to play not like that. They'll try to be workmanlike and, defensively minded, which is great. But if you don't have the list to do it, you don't have the list to do it. So it's been a bit of a calamity for Essendon this year. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, winning by 90 points after Ken Hinkley was coming under a fair bit of strife last week, which was driven a little bit by Koshy, their president, which is outrageous. But Port Adelaide, maybe it's a big ticket. Okay, we have made the right decision in staying firm with Ken Hinkley.
Yeah, I think Ken's pretty popular amongst the playing group, and they're one of those clubs I expect a big bounce-back factor next year. They start 0-5. They essentially rule themselves out of finals from that point.
Very good. That's the round wrap. Round 22 that was. Shelter FootyCast, Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Shelter XPA X Factor. We've given it to some West Coast players over the last couple of weeks. We could give it to Tom Barrass, who would probably enjoy the Shelters. I think he probably would, actually. But it's an obvious one this week.
Yeah, Sean Darcy, Glendinning Allen medalist, picked up maximum votes from all 3 judges. He was best on ground. He was best by a pretty good margin. He dominated the Derby.
Were you calling when Luke Shuey gave him a big bump in the first quarter and put him to the deck? I don't know if you do remember what I'm talking about.
Vaguely.
So Sean Darcy was standing the mark. Luke Shuey sort of came from the side, his blind side, and Tim Kelly played on, and Luke Shuey put him to the deck. And I remember thinking, I don't know if that's the right bear to be poking Sean Darcy, because he went on. He looks like he plays better angry.
Yeah.
And I think he does. 16 touches, 5 marks, 6 tackles, 56 hit-outs, 4 clearances, 8 score involvements. That's a game.
Which makes you wonder again, Luke Jackson, what is he going to do at the Fremantle Dockers next year if he comes? I'm actually asking the question and would like to know if we've got a guy in this sort of form and potentially for the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, not even 3 or 4 years. Ruckman can play for a long time.
Yeah, but I'm saying it could be the top of his game for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Or could work beautifully where Jackson plays a bit of forward, helps him out in the ruck, and then Darcy pushes forward. That could be the alternative.
Do they feel the pressure and just have to do it because he's a good player and he's a free agent and he's not a free agent, he's uncontracted and he's West Australian and he's a young talent? Do they just bow and they have to get the deal done?
Possibly. And just quickly, All-Australian ruckman You've still got Jared Witts in your All-Australian team.
Just hanging on in front of that man just there.
Yeah. So who are you two?
Max going at the moment.
Max.
Yeah. And Witts.
Witts, okay.
With Sean Darcy in the squad.
Okay.
But play like that in the last round of the year, and you might find yourself in front of Jared Witts in the team.
Okay. Just check.
You got Jared Witts in there?
Oh, mate, I'm happy to roll with you because you haven't had many things go right on that front.
All right. I don't know who should read this one, me or you. Probably me, I think. So this is a listener question that's come in.
Yeah, right.
FootyCast. What's the email, please, Dan? Can you just give me? I keep forgetting.
Am I getting a clip here? Am I?
Oh, I think
Probably,
so, mate.
yeah,
Yeah, FootyCast@shelterbrewing.com.au.
Do you write this or not? Yeah.
If you want to write it and give, I would say no longer regional footy stories. No, I think give Skeeter a big prep up. If you want to write them in, get it in. FootyCast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Hi Will, this is not not hi team. Hi Will.
This is someone stitched it up. Anyway, go on.
Massive fan of the addition of preview review to your podcasting episodes this year. There you go, Skate. Happy with that. I'll miss it when the season is over. Getting Mark Skeeter Rennings on board is a masterstroke. Here you go. This is great.
Yeah, all good so far.
Originally from WA, I've been a fan of Mr. Vanilla Rennings for years. And to hear him say nipples a few episodes ago nearly caused me to run off the road. As a huge favourite of fans and patrons across the globe, can you please ask Mark to drop an F-bomb or at least say nipples again, or I'll settle for tits or bum. It will renew my faith in humanity that even the most vanilla personalities are capable of walk on the dark side. Rick Peterson. I know Rick's a real person, by the way. P.S. Happy to donate money to any of your aligned charities if Skate would like to drop an F-bomb or a tit or a bum or a nipple.
Yeah, no, I've... Well, actually, given that my daughters said the other day you've got man boobs, Dad, I'll go with tits. That's about as far as we'll go at this point. But we'll get as we feel more comfortable.
Yes.
We'll start to expand our vocabularies as Scully does from time to time.
Very good. I've got one more question. Actually, I think it's come in late. How do you fix the Brownlow medal so that it isn't just a midfielders award? That's from Steve in City Beach.
That's not a short-term fix. It's not an easy fix, is it?
No.
Because in this year, it's going to be a midfielder. Let's be honest. It's either going to be. Could be a Cripps, could be a Neil, could be a Brayshaw.
It's just very difficult. An award given by umpires. Umpires aren't looking in the back line. They're looking where the ball is, which is where the midfielders are, and they see the midfielders the most.
So what happens on the weekend at Derby? Darcy gets 3 votes.
Does Barras get votes?
He has to get votes. I mean, Sarong might get 2 and Barras gets 1 or vice versa, but...
Mark this in the calendar. Let's come back to this. Let's see if Tom Brass gets 2 votes.
He's going to get votes. He has to. Otherwise, and the Brownlow medal is broken if someone like him, given the form and what he showed on the weekend, and it's also, look, same with Tom Lynch. Will he get 3 votes for Richmond against Hawthorn?
Oh, he has to. 8 goals. Has to.
Yeah, and what, Kennedy the week before for West Coast?
Yeah, see, that's the interesting one. Losing side.
And Laird gets...
And the whole crowd's cheering for him. Let's see if that happens. Laird v Kennedy in round 21. That's it, Skate. All done and dusted. Shelter FootyCast across socials. FootyCast@shelterbrewing.com.au if you want to give some shit to Skate, give him a swear or something like that. Follow us on socials. Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on podcasts. I don't know what we've got coming up. It's coming towards the end of the season. We could have a couple of shift changes here because we're off to Europe in a little bit, Skate.
Yeah, no, it's great. The fact that we get to the business part of the season and you and Dan decide to piss off. So, well, that's fantastic. Really, really showing your loyalty to a new podcast, new Shelter FootyCast. And you decide to just go on the Formula One circuit. But good luck to you.
We can have... That's enough. Done and dusted. Bye-bye.